Hi YouTube, my name is Ali and welcome to my channel. First and foremost, I apologize for the extremely messy nightstand, and my bed is unmade, and my cat Melvin John, he's just chilling over there looking cute, so we're just gonna let him lounge. Anyways, in today's video I really wanted to talk about the suicide forest in Japan, also known as the Sea of Trees, and its legit name, which will be right here because I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it. The other day I was watching Exploring with Josh, which is a channel here on YouTube, a great channel. It's this guy named Josh who goes and explores abandoned places and just really cool places all over the world, and he did go to the suicide forest in Japan, and I thought that was really interesting. I'm gonna link that down below if you guys actually want to see what it looks like, him walking through the forest and he finds some cool things. Also, I watched a documentary with the Vice over this, and that was also really informative and really, I don't want to say cool because I know it's a sad place, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't extremely interesting to me, so I'm just going to use the word interesting. I'll also link that down below. Thirdly, I've seen the movie The Forest, and I'm pretty sure that's based off of the suicide forest in Japan. Suicide Forest is in the northwestern flank of Japan, right by Mount Fuji. I'm pretty sure it's about 12 miles wide, but if I'm wrong, I'll put the correct number right here. Also, it is on top of hardened lava from Mount Fuji, so the forest ground is extremely hard because it's basically growing on top of hardened lava. Suicide Forest is the second most popular place in the world to commit suicide. I believe the first is the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, but if I'm wrong, I'll put the right answer here, but I'm pretty sure that's right. Also, some estimates claim as many as 100 people take their life in the suicide forest per year. That's a lot of people, you guys. Think about that. I know that the government used to keep track of how many people committed suicide there, but they stopped releasing that number or keeping track altogether. I'm not sure which one, because that kind of drawed attention to it, and they really just don't want the public to see it as some place to go commit suicide. One upsetting fact is Japan has one of the highest rates of suicide in the whole world. I was reading an article and it talked about in 2009 the estimated number was over 2,600 people, and it's almost 2018, so I have to imagine that that number has increased. I will put the most recent number I can find right here because I'm interested myself. Also, another statistic is that men between the ages 30 and 40 are most likely to commit suicide in Japan, and also the month of March has some significance because that's the most common month for people to commit suicide. And one theory behind this is that people in March are best able to tell if their businesses are doing well or doing poorly, and I guess people whose businesses are doing poorly, that's one reason for them to take their life in their eyes, and that's just something I read that I thought was sad. As I mentioned earlier, the government doesn't really want to release how many people there are committing suicide each year. However, they have announced that they're coming up with this sort of plan to reduce suicides by 20%, and some ways they plan to do that are by adding cameras at the entrances of the forest and increasing parole. There are also signs posted throughout the forest with encouraging statements on them, such as think of your family, your children, your life, suicide's not the answer, and a lot of them have hotlines on them. I think this is a wonderful idea because someone who is suicidal and walking around and contemplating taking their own life, maybe someone encouraging them, just that encouraging statement, maybe that's all they needed to hear for them to realize hey, I got this. I just think it's a really smart countermeasure to take and something I enjoyed finding on the internet. Another sad fact about the forest is that the most popular method of suicide is by hanging, and I would assume that would be because of the abundance of trees and probably a quick, fast way to die. Well, not extremely quick, but I don't know. The most second popular method is sleeping pills, and I watched on that documentary in Vice, the guy that was walking around, he's an expert. He was saying that people who take sleeping pills to kill themselves, it's not always successful, and in the cases that it are successful, they're weak and stuff for an entire day, suffering for a whole day before they pass away, which I thought was really sad. There are a few books which may have influenced the reason as to why people come to commit suicide at this forest, and one is this name, which I don't want to be disrespectful by trying to pronounce, so I'm just going to put it on the screen, and it's some sort of romantic novel where one of the lovers retreats back to the forest and commits suicide here. there. I don't know why I say here as if I'm in Japan. There, I don't know a ton about this book, however, I'll leave a link down below if you want to learn more about it. And then there also is another book called The Suicide Manual, which lists this forest as the best place to die. I don't know if the writers they probably, I don't know, I don't feel like they would intentionally want people to go there and kill themselves. That seems absurd to me, but it has been found by corpses, like by various corpses in the forest, so obviously it did have some influence on people. One bizarre and upsetting fact I found was that before people committed suicide in this forest, people in extreme times of famine and poverty would drop their elders off here to die. Like, they would just drop them and leave them there to die. I can't even wrap my head around that. Could you imagine bringing your grandparent to a forest and just being like, yeah, see ya? That's so disrespectful in my eyes, because without them, you wouldn't be alive. But it's a different culture and that was a different time period and it doesn't happen anymore, but I thought it was pretty messed up and worth mentioning. So for those of you who don't know, a suicide forest is supposed to be extremely haunted, like supposed to be one of the most haunted places in the world. I wouldn't know, haven't been there, but people believe that there are ghosts or like Yuri or something like that. Put the word right here because I don't want to embarrass myself. Anyways, the theory behind this is that there are like these ghosts and persons there, and I guess there are like reports or stories of people going to this forest who aren't even contemplating suicide but kill themselves because these spirits like convince them to, or they like convince someone who is contemplating to commit suicide. Another interesting, would you call it? I don't know. What's a good adjective to use? I'm not sure. Another fact or thing is that some people camp there, and if you see a tent, that is supposed to symbolize that that person is unsure of or still contemplating suicide, and they're basically camping there until they make up their mind. Another thing is a lot of times people find strings, ribbons, rope tied tree to tree to tree to tree, and this means that they are basically also unsure if they want to commit suicide or not, and that way if they decide they don't want to and they want to choose life, they can turn around and follow their ribbon out. That Vice documentary I was talking about earlier, which is linked down below, the guy in that documentary was saying like he's basically this geologist but who also like was on suicide patrol for the forest, and he said every time you follow like a rope or a ribbon or something, there's always something at the end of it. Either there's a body or there's like remnants that someone was there and decided to leave. So that was just something interesting that I thought I would put in. Okay, you guys, and that's all I have for this video. I just want to say I hope I wasn't sounding disrespectful while talking. If I was, I sincerely apologize. I know that this place, you know, it's not funny, it's a serious thing, it's so sad. And the reason I think I'm just so intrigued by it is because the idea of a concentrated amount of people committing suicide in one area, particularly a forest, just makes me want to learn more about it. I hope you guys found it interesting. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and tell me below in the comments that you liked it. Also, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. I would sincerely appreciate it. And until next time, bye guys.